Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Butcher, and I'm the Communications Manager here at AFSA. Welcome to Top 5 Lending Trends to Watch in 2019, presented by PayNearMe. This presentation is part of AFSA's Business Partner Webinar Series, which allows industry experts to share timely educational topics directly with AFSA members. Webinars are designed to provide information that will allow AFSA members to more effectively design, develop, and implement strategies for their company's success. For more information about the series or how to become a presenter, feel free to reach out to me following today's presentation. A few housekeeping notes before we get started. Today's webinar will last approximately 35 minutes. We'll have a few minutes for questions at the end. To ask a question, please use the question box on the side of your screen, and I'll read them aloud following the presentation. The slides and a recording of today's webinar will be available later today on the Webinar Resource Center. And finally, you'll receive a survey after the webinar is over. Please take a moment to complete it. Your responses help us fine-tune the program so we can target the issues that are most important to you. PayNearMe is a wholly owned subsidiary of Handle Financial Incorporated, and that has been enabling government agencies and businesses to accept cash payments remotely since 2009. Using PayNearMe, consumers can make payments on their own schedule, in their own neighborhood, at one of nearly 27,000 trusted locations in the United States, which includes 7-Eleven, Family Dollar, and Casey's General Stores. PayNearMe processes cash payments for the IRS, Comcast, Greyhound, Opportune, and the California Department of Child Support Services, among others. A bit about our presenters today. Christian Solomini leads Handle Financial's sales, account management, and merchant services teams. Most recently, he directed the North America Global Partner Program at Telefonica Digital, focusing on machine-to-machine IoT solutions, and helped lead global business development initiatives. Prior to Telefonica, Christian ran M2M worldwide sales for Rogers Communications in Canada and directed sales at Jasper Wireless for their fleet management and consumer electronics practice. Christian holds an MBA and a Master of Science in Information Technology from the University of Denver's Daniels College of Business. John Miner leads the product and support teams at Handle Financial. Prior to Handle, John managed network products for Jasper Wireless and worked at Motorola, where he helped the company launch its first Android phone. He began his career at Good Technology, where he served as Director of Technical Account Management and Escalations. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Christian and John.
Thank you very much, Dan. Looking forward to speaking with everybody on the call today. And really what we're going to jump right into is talking about the top 5 lending trends to watch in 2019. The agenda for today, we're going to talk a little bit about the state of lending. We're going to talk about what customers are asking for, the top 5 trends to watch in lending. We'll have some key takeaways, talk a little bit about PayNearMe, and we'll have hopefully some time for Q&A, depending upon how long we go today. As part of the presentation, we'll also intersperse with some polling questions, so I encourage you to please weigh in. Love to get your feedback. And I'll be asking some questions of John Miner as we go through on these various topics to get his perspective from the technical, product, and support side. The state of lending. After years of growth, auto sales have been declining since 2017. The decline is predicted to continue through this year and possibly into next year. Why is this? Owners are keeping their cars longer. Used car inventory is high, which reduces demand for new cars. City dwellers are preferring ride-sharing services like Uber or Lyft. And in some cases, rising interest rates are making consumers wary about taking on new debt. Declining sales mean fewer auto loans, greater competition among lenders, and the need to optimize loan portfolio profitability. The reason we're mentioning these is based upon the trends we're identifying. This will allow you to more effectively compete in the market and offer services and products to negate or to reduce the impact of some of these declines that we're seeing in the industry. Also, consumers are asking, why is the auto loan process so complex, and why does it take so long to reach a credit decision? Customers want simpler loan applications and faster decisions about those loans and faster and easier ways to pay. We'll also talk about some of the trends that tie into some of the things that customers are asking about auto lending or just lending in general. Top 5 trends for lenders. First one we're going to talk about today are the use of cloud-based lending platforms. Many of those of you on the call today are using these platforms. Many of you are exploring those. We're going to talk about why lenders are moving to them. We're also going to talk a little bit about predictive analytics, how that is used in optimizing loan portfolios. We'll then go into providing a richer experience with expanded payment options for your customers. The fourth topic will be catering to the millennial buyer. And fifth, the move towards digital presentment. Having a delay on my slide. Next slide. There we go. First trend, cloud-based lending platforms fully exploit the proven technical capabilities of the cloud to enable a better lending experience. Now, why are lenders using the cloud? There's a variety of ways. One is clearly faster implementation. Eliminating the need for premise-based systems and tying into the cloud allows you to deploy platforms in a quicker manner. If you're using the cloud, you also get continuous delivery of new functionality, more frequent software updates, and cost savings when compared to legacy on-premise systems. Further, the cloud simplifies the lending and payment acceptance process. This allows people to initiate loans, whether they're on-site, on their mobile device, or online. Many times with cloud-based systems, it can also digitize the entire experience. Recently, I did a loan for my wife's car, and my experience at the dealership was completely digitized. I didn't touch a piece of paper at all. It was a very refreshing experience, and I know many solution providers in the space are bringing more and more of these solutions to market. It also replaces manual processes and automated business rules, and it enables more payment acceptance by providing simple and intuitive user experiences, allowing customers to pay anywhere, anytime, on their own schedule, and more frequently going to a mobile-centric experience. Now, before I jump into the next topic, John, I know I'm saying this is a trend, but this is something that we've done here at PayNearMe, moving to the cloud. Why did we do that? Who do we use? And what were the benefits that we saw?
Yeah, when we had started out on the PayNearMe side, we did have physical servers, cages, in multiple locations for redundancy. At the time, it was largely because of when we started to build out the platform, and also just some key requirements from anything from our regulatory partners or some of the compliance requirements we had, and frankly, some of our partner requirements, like our retailers. As we continue to move along, though, folks like AWS is who we use today, Amazon Web Services, got really sophisticated, and they were able to satisfy all of our requirements with respect to our partners and things like security and other things we had to maintain. So we did make the move to AWS. It has provided us the ability to have scalability to scale up as well as scale down. It gives us the great sense of working with third parties who have integrated in with it. Since it is in the cloud, it gives you the capability for more plugins to arrive for such things as monitoring, alerting, etc. And from a network structure, it even gives us the flexibility to stand up individual server clouds or instances for key partners or partners that have heavier traffic at certain periods of time, and really lets us manage it that way. Lots of options. There's other options out there besides Amazon, like Microsoft Azure, other folks like Google are getting into this as well in a big way. It's really helped us just grow, expand, bring up and down, give us a greater sense of visibility into everything we do within our system.
Okay, excellent, thank you. We're now going to go into trend number 2, which is the use of predictive analytics. Predictive analytics help lenders modify and fine-tune lending policies and practices and respond to market changes quickly when needed. Lenders can access data to perform important business functions. Now, taking that a step further, this allows lenders to integrate the complex and disparate functions of various payment platforms, helps greatly with the detection of payment fraud, also allows for risk scoring of payments in real time and in batch, and also assists with AML, anti-money laundering. This allows lenders to apply these analytics to the portfolio to get a better understanding of profit and loss, So some of the takeaways are lenders should use analytics regularly. These allow you to identify the most profitable deal sources and determining buyer characteristics that may indicate the potential for delinquency and risk. You can also monitor approval and capture ratios by week, month, or years and identify bottlenecks in the loan processing process and then eliminate those. Now, again, question over to John. I know we're doing more here. John, can you talk a little bit about how we're using predictive analytics, particularly, clearly on the payment processing side as it relates to fraud and other things? What are we doing in predictive analytics that one can help reduce fraud, but also can help the lending community?
Yeah, sure. So pattern matching and being able to leverage the data you have is incredibly powerful. We continue to try to be a data-first organization. Data being probably the greatest asset that we have as organizations to really be able to leverage. Leveraging the data and what you see really helps you not only make decisions, but adjust on the fly. So notably speaking, in the payments world that we are focused in at the moment, we're able to leverage patterns we're seeing with respect to past and make decisions with respect to just basic risk scoring, compliance scoring, and given just so much more of what we're going to talk about today, where so much of this is now happening on a mobile device, assuming you have the permissions and such from a consumer, there's just a lot of different elements you could be gathering in these experiences. And so what we're doing today is leveraging our data to come up with models, determine in basic use cases and in more complex use cases what looks right, what doesn't look wrong. And with that, notably in the digital experiences, when things seem off, we have the potential to not just prevent a hard stop. Because it's digital, you can adjust, you can prompt for additional information, you can use that information and feed it back into a model to then determine what you believe is going to occur in the future to be leveraged. And the other predictive side is also, we're using it from a risk monitoring compliance type scenario, but also trying to expose what we can on predictive scenarios of what to expect in a given day outside of number of users in a given sequence, fall off rates, and things of that nature, so that you can adjust where if there's a fall off rate greater in one place, you need to spend time on the user experience and make sure that you can address it going forward and no longer have those problems. And also being able to surface that information to our partners and not just something that we're able to adjust to on the fly.
Great. Well, thank you again for that answer. So we're going to go into trend number 3, and then we'll take a first break and we'll do a poll. So let's go into number 3 here. Provide a richer user experience with expanded payment options. Recent article published in the Financial Brand reported 61% of banks listed removing friction in the process and providing more payment options in order to capture more millennials as a priority for this year and beyond. Now, what does that mean? Reducing friction, improving the user experience, but also making the loan application and monthly payments process faster, easier, and safer. We're also seeing lending as a service platforms provide a fully managed turnkey approach. That also ties back into the cloud trend that we talked about prior. Also, a key piece of this is an omni-channel delivery system. So allowing people to pay the way they want, when and where they want. That could be in person, that could be online off a website, that could be via a mobile optimized site, or it could be via full integration inside a mobile application. And one of the fastest growing trends in this space is the mobile-only payment experience. Now, John, one of the things I wanted to ask you, based upon kind of these sub-trends and some of the guidance here is, what sort of things are you seeing in either UI or UX design in the space today to provide this richer experience? What are the new features that consumers are consuming and the different technology providers are bringing to the market?
So from a design perspective specifically, there's the concept of adaptive design, largely where a consumer's accessing you, whether it's a mobile phone, a tablet, a laptop, desktop, whatever it might be, those experiences should be consistent and rather clean. There's some modern design standards out there like material design and others that have common elements to them that consumers are used to interacting with across, whether it's Android on the materials side or Apple and their design standards. So it's leveraging those concepts and being contextually aware as well with respect to your experiences. So screen by screen, understanding why your user's on that screen and what they're trying to achieve. And this is more of a point to what's coming up next, but also so much of it is happening in these interfaces that a lot of consumers these days want to be able to get the answer to what might be happening or going wrong at that moment via some type of chat or some type of experience there. And then obviously with these experiences, being able to, on top of your design, track each place, each page on an analytic perspective. We refer to it as sweating every pixel. Design is the first thing folks see. It's really important for consumers. People get turned away. I think many of us have shown up on those sites that aren't adaptive and pinching and dragging and zooming in. We've experienced some consumers who will just leave given those experiences. So those are some of the things that we look for and are trend-wise happening.
Excellent. Well, thanks, John. So with that said, we're going to go jump into polling question number 1. So Dan, there you go. We got a quick poll here. We're going to leave this open for 20 seconds or so. Again, please weigh in here. Love to get your feedback in terms of what percentage of your consumers are using mobile devices to make payments. We've been asking this for many, many years, but love to get your feedback and see how this is trending from some of the data we've seen in the industry going back a couple, 3 years and where that's trending. And this, again, ties into some of the points that John made about mobile design, but also points that we'll talk about in a little bit regarding millennials. Okay. So if I had asked this poll about 3 years ago, I would have said less than 10% would have been the predominant answer. We probably would have seen this in the 70% range. We are now to roughly 50-50 between less than 10 and 10 to 50. And this makes a lot of sense. As many of you know, smartphones are becoming more and more widespread. It's hard to even purchase a flip phone anymore. And we're seeing many more people choose to use mobile devices to make payments. So this is very consistent with what we're seeing in the market, and thank you all for answering that poll. So let's go jump in to our next topic. All right, trend number 4, catering to the millennial buyer. Common misperception, millennials don't purchase new vehicles. Not true. The demographic is maturing, is now poised to be a driving force, particularly in auto lending, but in lending products overall. So trend number 4 is catering to the millennial buyer. Now, why would you want to do this? Millennials account, as it relates to auto, all new vehicle growth sales in North America during the first quarter of 18. Gen X was flat. They were at 27.2%. This is a mature market, and baby boomers, that demographic has actually lost share, dropping from 35.2% to 34.1%. Again, leading into greater increases in millennial market share. The mature market fell even more, down from 9.6% to 9% of car purchases. Millennials now represent the largest consumer demographic. They're younger with more disposable income and more years of effective buying power. Catering to the millennial buyer. No matter what you do, do not ignore the millennial population. It's growing, and those consumers will be around the longest to have and establish a great working relationship with. Analyze local markets and connect with prospective millennial buyers. Lending platforms should be mobile first to offer millennials a faster and simpler user experience in getting loans and making payments. And lending platforms should integrate features that appeal to millennials, like payment reminders, chatbots, and mobile wallets. So again, if your only experience interacting with businesses, and this is many times the case, is mobile-centric from a millennial perspective, you may have one opportunity to interact with that millennial buyer. Making your products mobile-friendly, mobile-first are critical not only to delighting that user from their experience, but also keeping them over the long term. Millennials typically will not use standard desktop-based features. So they want something in the palm of their hand and optimizing that experience. Going back to John's comment about pinch and drag, that's not an acceptable experience on a mobile device. So for whatever product or service you're offering this demographic, making it optimized from a mobile perspective is very key. Taking it one step further, having payment reminders, chatbots, and integration in with mobile wallet features is also a very key and important feature that we're hearing from the market that millennials not only ask for, but demand. All right, well, with that said, we're going to jump into polling question number 2. How important is it for your organization to provide a best-in-class mobile-first user experience to your consumers? Again, if I asked this question 3-4 years ago, I think I'm going to get some very different responses than what we're getting today, but please vote on this question. Love to get your feedback in terms of where mobile-first user experiences fall into your overall priorities. We'll leave this open for another 10 to 15 seconds, and then we'll analyze the results. All right. Okay. So glad to hear that only 6% said it's not important at all. So that's very in line with the trends we're seeing in the space. We've got some neutral, but the vast majority are saying either important or very important. I didn't need to be leading the witness, but I think from the feedback you're getting from your customers, you are hearing that mobile first is where everything is going. And this corroborates a lot of the evidence that we're seeing in the market as well. So keep up the good work. If you're developing mobile-centric applications, keep them going. That's great. All right. All right, we're going to get into our 5th and final topic of the day. We'll have another polling question, and then we're going to open up for Q&A, as well as just some final closing comments on Pay Near Me. Now, trend number 5, which is the move towards digital presentment. Now, customers are expecting to receive personal and interactive messages from you. They would use electronic statements. They're also expecting more features because when you move off of paper, you have the ability for more one-to-one marketing opportunities, messaging, videos, whatever it may be. This allows you to increase loan servicing satisfaction by providing this one-to-one messaging on the loan statements. You could show balances, dynamic information changes, payment reminders. Also, as mentioned before, this allows you to integrate in with mobile wallets. The screenshot we're showing here is just an example of showing an existing balance amount, due dates, and other things that are important that would allow a customer to know when they need to pay and the amount. However, with that said, you can't fully abandon print. So you have to have an omni-channel delivery strategy for both digital as well as physical mail. So some of the messages you can use when you move towards digital presentment: you're 30 days delinquent. Click here for a personalized payment plan. You'll pay off your car loan next month. Click here to see the models that may be available for your next purchase. John, can you add in some of the other things that we're seeing in the space in terms of specific features that payments providers and others are using when they're doing presentment, or some of the things that our customers are asking for that they want to see brought to market in the industry?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you highlight most of them here, but you know, the need to have both is obviously there, right? You have a demographic that strongly wants to live in one place and only be communicated by means of say, smartphone, iPad, whatever it might be. And then you have others who want to be communicated in a much different arena, such as possibly even picking up the phone to figure out what they owe. You know, we are seeing the growing amount of our consumers wanting to be reached via this digital presentment and looking in one place to see what they owe, and being able to confirm all of it in one place. You know, taking it further, you know, one of the trends going on in the industry right now is there's a big movement away from digital, from paying your bills on a banking website, as an example, because they don't present enough information for the consumer. Consumers want the information at their fingertips. They want to be able to see what they owe and pay it now. And they want to be able to know in that scenario, if I have a question about this, I kind of want an immediate answer. It's kind of that trying to hit Google and get an instant answer type thing. So for us, we have consumers who want to be reminded. They also want to be in control of the payment. So there's concepts out there, obviously, of auto pay. We all know that. And in the ideal world, everyone would be on auto pay. But the thing digital presentment allows is the ability to also engage with the consumer and give them, kind of the option, make sure they know the payment's coming up, and letting them reply in an efficient way. Do you still want to process this payment? So kind of the ability to do auto pay with under their own control. So those are some of the things that we're seeing and are focused on.
And John, aren't we also seeing some people, they're looking for presentment data on one medium, maybe it's the website, but then they want to make payments on their mobile device. So some people are liking to consume different types of information at different times of the month or different phases of the loan servicing cycle, depending upon what they're getting at. So it's not always a one-size-fits all, right?
That's correct. I mean, there are folks, lots of folks that bounce around, whether it be on the weekend sitting on their iPad and seeing what they owe and how much they want to pay, versus during the week on their smartphone or whatever it might be. And those experiences being consistent and having the ability to pay and or consume content on their own schedule is what's important.
Okay, great. Well, thanks again. All right, well, we're going to go then jump into our third polling question of the day. And this one is, how important is it for you to provide payment reminders to your consumers to overcome late payments? And clearly, is this something you do today in a digital manner, in a print manner, and in other manners in a call-in? So how important is it for you to provide payment reminders to your consumers to overcome late payments? We'll leave this open for another 5 to 10 seconds, and then we'll wrap up on our polling questions, discuss those, and then we'll go into a little bit about Pay Near Me, as well as a little bit more Q&A. Okay, so how important is it for you to provide payment reminders? So neutral, 27%. All right, so this looks even higher than I anticipated from the very important perspective. So I'm assuming a lot of the folks on the call today are doing this in a digital manner and through omni-channel strategy. So trending more and more to have that real-time interaction with the customer to let them know what is due and when. So again, thank you for your questions there. All right, so just to summarize from a key takeaways perspective and the topics that we covered today. So what do all these trends mean for auto lenders? 95% of the US population has access to a mobile phone and 77% have smartphones. That is data from about a year and a half ago, which has grown even more significantly and will be published in subsequent governmental reports. But again, why is this important? Catering to the mobile user for presentment, payment, and other options is going to be critical for loan originations and servicing moving forward. Make your product mobile friendly with digital presentment, reminders. Clearly, many of you are going there. Many of you are also considering it based upon the poll results we've seen today. Make it simpler for your customers to apply and pay for the loans by removing friction, whether that's through the use of the cloud, lending platforms as a service. Making this whole process digital will be key and critical to having success in this market. And then also take a look at incorporating technologies such as biometric security, natural language searches, chatbots. This is where the industry is moving and should be something that you're looking at to incorporate into your products. All right, just a couple quick things about Pay Near Me. And Dan, if we have some time left, then we'll go into some Q&A questions. Now, with that said, you can submit those via the chat. We'll be looking at those and we'll be addressing some Q&A after a couple of brief slides. For those of you that have worked with Pay Near Me, you know most of this, but we traditionally worked in the cash markets, providing cash payments at over 27,000 locations across the country. We also now enable businesses and government agencies to accept debit, credit, and ACH payments, and we deliver a complete mobile-first user experience. We are a PCI compliant organization, ISO 27001 certified, and have a robust AML and KYC process that we use for all of our deployments. And our evolution, although we started business in 2009 as a cash-only provider, we started to offer all sorts of services that relates to various types of tender in 2018, including the debit, ACH, and credit processing, as I mentioned before. We provide full wallet integration with both Apple and Google, and a optimized mobile experience that includes text messaging and payment reminders. These are some of the businesses that utilize Pay Near Me. On the lending side, we also work in collections, transportation, property management, utilities, e-commerce sites, nonprofits, and we also do work for the government. And just to conclude, in terms of the value proposition, and these go back in all the trends we talked about today. So if you would like to learn more, we will be attending the ASSA annual event next week. Mike Harmon, our Director of Sales, will be at that event. So please track him down if you do have some time to connect and would like to learn more, one about the trends we talked about today, or about the features that we supply, whether it's mobile optimization of your enterprise, providing a consistent mobile UI and user experience that ties into your web-based offerings, or other sorts of payment reminders and push notifications. You'll also see a final polling question in the survey that we supply at the end of the session. So if you could please answer that, we would appreciate it. And I think we've got a couple of minutes left here without going too long, Dan. So I'd like to open it up now for any sorts of polling questions that we may have seen come in, and just let me know when we're about time, but hopefully we could get a couple of them squeezed in here, and either John and I will be happy to answer.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Christian, and thanks, John. Let me quickly, before we get to the question, I realized that I misstated Pay Near Me's description at the beginning of the webinar, so I just want to read the one that is the up-to-date one, which is Pay Near Me is a service of Handle Financial and is the industry's only single platform solution, enabling businesses to accept cash, debit, credit, and ACH payments anytime, anywhere. The mobile-first technology provides a simpler way for businesses to collect payments and an intuitive, consistent experience for their customers. And I know you just went through that, Christian, but I wanted to make sure that our attendees got the full cost of fare there. Do have a couple of questions, have some time left. One good question here, we're talking about millennial buyers, their increased role, obviously, in purchasing. Here's a question about Gen Z. When you're talking about millennial buyers, which is more important to think of for the future? Is it, when you're considering long-term growth, Gen Z is a large population, millennials are spending money now. Which do you view as more important, and why?
Well, I'll start the answer and I'll let John add on top. Clearly, millennials right now, by the time Gen Z has the purchasing power to interact with a lot of the attendees on the call today, we may be seeing things through payment methods and interactions in other social media platforms, whether they're utilizing payments through Instagram or whatever it may be. We're going to see more and more things like that integrated in with third-party applications. But if you're really looking to build for the long term, based upon buying behavior and buying power right now, focusing on the needs of millennials will definitely jumpstart the business. I think Gen Z's got a way to go, and we're also studying now what sort of ways they're going to want to interact that might be different than your typical millennial buyer. But I would focus my efforts on millennials right now. John, anything you want to add there?
I agree with what you said. Only thing I'd add is it's the keeping up with the technology trends is probably sounds obvious, but for Gen Z will probably become even more important, to Christian's point, which is you're going to see things new come our way. They're going to want to take advantage of that. I don't think they're there yet. And I'm not even sure the market knows what that is yet. It's something to keep an eye on over the next several years.
Great. Maybe time for two more here. You were talking about providing reminders for consumers who may have late payments, and for the 27% or so of people who are neutral on how important that is. I wonder if you've seen that any evidence that providing these reminders helps folks overcome late payments, if it makes it easier for them to remember, for example. Just curious your take there.
Yeah, it definitely has. But one of the things you really need to look at when you're doing payment reminders is the frequency and the cadence. And John can talk a little bit more about the studies that we've done. But for example, sending someone a payment reminder that's 10 days out, you may as well not send that payment reminder. It's there's a certain time window that people need to be notified, and that could be based upon when their due date is or what their payment cycle is, if they're getting paid on every other Friday, how they're getting paid, and the like. Some reminders are absolutely useless, and some reminders will actually cause people to opt out of receiving reminders. So you have to do them, but you have to do them at a proper cadence and at a proper time on the billing month. So that was something we didn't necessarily know when we first started doing that. And with the analytics and data that we pulled in, we found that some are very, very useful at a specific time, and others will actually drive people away from using them. John, anything you want to add on that?
This reminder can get overloaded sometimes with what it means and meaning where the medium of where they want to be reached is also important. One consumer may live and love text, another expects a push notification, another may still live in email, or some just might want something else. So it's really understanding where the consumer wants to be reached. From a study perspective, to Christian's point, this is where, it's the UI equivalent of sweating every pixel. From a marketing perspective, tone and language is also really important of effectiveness here. We ran one study, and I think it was the word simple that was either added or removed that changed our conversion rate. So it's really understanding just not only when, which is really important, how they want to be reached, and also just the messaging and the tone you want to leverage to let them understand what this is and why it's important.
Great.
Thank you.
So let's take last question here, and it's sort of a multi-partish question. So we'll wrap up on it. For either one of you, if those listening had to invest in a technology or a technological service in the next year, what do you think would be, like, say, the top 2 or 3 that would be the most important to focus on?
Yeah, John, future looking, I'll let you take that one.
Yeah, I have a bias here about data, and I said it already. And I know that it's a bit of a geeky lens on this for me, but years ago, you started in a place where the term big data got coined, and it's gone now. It's just data. And really understanding what's happening within your data set, what it means to you, how you can make sense of it in any business is incredibly important. This is a fast and upcoming trend of a lot of computer science degrees and such right now in this world. So I have a clear bias here. We use internally some tools that give us very easy looks into our data. An example of that is a tool called Looker, which gives you access to very easy queries for folks to get their answers. There's some bigger technologies out there that let you then build upon what you're querying for. So for me, that's a big trend that any business starting, I would just, you almost lead with that. And then it's per what was in the deck here, but also really making sure that you're able to reach. It's not necessarily the answer to a technology trend, but really making sure that you're able to communicate and reach consumers as needed from a communication channel, from an engagement side. And being able to engage with consumers, understand how they want to be reached, whether it's some type of natural language like communication, the Alexa effect, whatever it might be. I would be paying attention to that. They're all over the place. All of this, think about how many, these devices are being sold. Google just announced their versions of this. But really making sure that you're able to very easily let this next generation say, I want to pay with my account, and you support that. It feels like that's where it's all going. And it's something that is becoming very common, more that being natural language.
Excellent.
Great. Well, I want to thank everybody so much for joining us. John and Christian and Payoneer Me, thank you very much for presenting today. Want to remind everybody that Payoneer Me will be at the annual meeting in Marina Del Rey next week. Look for Mike Harmon. If you need any assistance pointing him out, I will track him down for you. And also that you should fill out the survey that you received right after the webinar, if you could. Again, thank you to Payoneer Me, and remember that the slides and a recording of today's webinar will be available later today on the Webinar Resource Center on our website. Thanks very much, everybody, and that concludes our presentation.
Thanks for your time. Thank you.